Hello, my fellow fountain pen enthusiasts. So finally, it came. Really, actually didn't take that long, just a couple weeks for my Penbbs pen to come. And I have already taken it out of its package. I have not inked up the pen or anything. I've kind of messed around with it just a little bit briefly, but I wanted to complete a review on this pen. And really excited to complete this review. So we have our Penbbs 492 fountain pen. So here's kind of our packaging or our label here, kind of shows what's on the outside. Now, of course, this is the biggest Penbbs box I have ever seen. And it definitely is large in person. I mean, it takes up really the whole screen, as you can tell. Now we've got our Penbbs lettering here. Just a standard kind of cardboard styled box. Nothing super special, but I think it's pretty nice overall. Kind of reminds me of when I got my Pilot Custom 823. I got it with the bottle of ink. Same kind of type of box. And then there's the pen. Kind of flip this around for you. Just absolutely, I think it's a nice packaging. Now, of course, the pen was wrapped in a plastic sleeve. I already took the pen out, kind of messed around a little bit with the magnet, and just kind of played around with it. So this is not the initial unboxing. Unfortunately, my tripod was broken. I was going to do an initial unboxing, but I've got my tripod kind of rigged up right now. I'm waiting on a new one to come. So otherwise, you would have gotten my first initial reaction. Now here's the ink bottle it comes with. This is pretty nice. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with it. You know, I don't know, I probably won't put any ink in it, and I might. But I think just to have something to maybe put on your desk, I think it's actually really nice. Of course, there's that, I guess you say rat on there. Looks really nice. I think it's a nice design element. Now, of course, what everyone came here for is to see the pen. This is, in person, I think, a gorgeous pen. It's just, I love the trim design, you know, that they took with this pen. You know, it's got the standard Penbbs clip, but I love this rose gold kind of look that it has. Let's kind of get everything set up here so we can kind of zoom in just a little bit. Normally I have all this set up before we start the video, but I figured, there we go. So first initial impressions is it's really nice. You know, the acrylic is like crystal clear. It looks really nice. That nib shines through. I think the magnet looks really cool. I think it stands out. You know, when I took it out, I kind of put it up against some other pens, some other Penbbs pens for that matter. I mean, it just pops to me. I think it looks really attractive. I really like the design elements with it. You know, I don't know if this cap band will be for everyone from an aesthetic perspective. I happen to really like it because it's to me a little bit more unique. The way that it's designed, I think it looks really cool. Now here we can see, of course, we've got Penbbs 2020. We've got the rat or the mouse. To me, it looks more like a mouse, but it is the year of the rat. And then something that's somewhat unique is this kind of crown look to it. And I know someone had commented, I think it might have been on Douglas's review on what this was about. And of course, I totally forgot what they said, and I'm sure somebody will hopefully comment in the comment sections on what this it has a meaning behind this. Now up here we have our cap finial. I love the fact that they actually have the rat actually etched into the magnet. I think that's a really cool touch. It just looks nice. There's your magnets right up there, so definitely really nice. They're nice and strong. They work very well. And then kind of working our way down the pen, here we see the actual filling system right here. So there's your magnetic piston, and then you just got a nice, clear, transparent barrel. And then back here, we've got our finial. And now here's the cool part before I show it. So every pin so far that I've seen, now we've only seen 2 video reviews so far, has had a number on the finial back here. And mine has a number 2. And the cool thing is it's a 3-digit number, which I think was what we were kind of wondering. And the number that I've got is 469. So supposedly they made 500 of these so far. And so I've got one that's numbered kind of towards the end, which I actually kind of like. That's really neat. So you'll notice that they've put that number, if I can get this thing to focus, right in kind of the belly of the rat. And I think it looks nice. They did a really good job. Now this finial piece here, you can remove it. I was able to just kind of push my finger on it, and after a while it'll start to kind of move, and you can technically unscrew this back piece here. It screws back into place very easily without any issues whatsoever. I'm not going to unscrew it necessarily, but it definitely does work. Now, as far as uncapping this pin, so there's one full turn, and literally it's just over a full turn. So it definitely is very nice from that perspective. It uncaps easily. The pin itself, the body of the pin, is very lightweight. You know, it's one of the things I noticed. I mean, there's no metal in here. I mean, you've got the magnet here. This piece back here is like an aluminum. It's not weighted really at all. But even though it's very lightweight, it's not nib heavy, where the nib, you know, in which some people may not like that. I personally don't mind it. I think this is a pin for long riding sessions. Could be pretty easy to use. Now we've got our Penbbs, kind of our rose gold nib. I think it's a very attractive nib. Now, I did not actually get an option of what size nib I could choose. Now this does have an M on it, so I'm wondering if this is a medium. It's got some decent tipping material there. So it definitely looks like it could potentially be a medium. I'll have to kind of compare it a little bit. And obviously once I fill it up and actually write with it, then it will kind of give me an idea of what the line width is. But I did not get an option of ordering, like choosing between a fine and a medium. So and maybe I did and I'm just crazy and I chose a medium. I will say if I got the option, I would have chosen a medium. But definitely I really like this piece of it. So now it does post. So I've noticed I did post it momentarily. To me, it kind of makes it maybe a little bit back heavy. It's not super noticeable though. These magnets definitely, I think, are a little bit heavier than the obviously the magnet up here. So, but it's not extremely noticeable as far as being back heavy. So definitely a pin. It, you know, posts securely. It's not going to come off. I definitely wouldn't have any issues riding with this pin posted. Generally, I probably notice it more though than most people because I generally don't write with my pins posted. I think as far as riding with it unposted, I would have no issues whatsoever. And even though this is lightweight, I actually don't mind the weight whatsoever. Now, for those of you that are curious about the weight, well, we can do that. And just kind of see what the weight looks like. Make sure we're good. So this is with the clip, or I'm sorry, with the cap on. So with the cap on, we're sitting at about 26.1 grams right now. And then let's see if I can get it to kind of stay on here enough to get the weight. There we go. So the body of the pin is only 12.7 grams. So like I said, the body definitely feels very lightweight. Cap itself, so there's all your weight. So we're 13.3 grams in the cap. So, you know, with the cap itself, a decently weighted pin, but the body, of course, is going to have a lot less weight. Now, once you get this thing filled full of ink, that's obviously going to add to the weight. So once we get it filled full of ink, we can definitely do some comparisons there as far as how much the pin might weigh. If you're curious on sizing on this pin, so if you want to know kind of what the length of this pin is, so it's 142 millimeters exactly in its capped form. Now, if we look at it from an uncapped form, we're sitting at 128, almost 129 millimeters. It was actually 128.6 before I moved the pin out. So almost 129 millimeters in its uncapped form. And then posted, it's going to be rather long posted. We're sitting closer about 160 millimeters in its posted form. So definitely a lot longer in its posted form. But again, I think it's definitely a pin that is definitely a pin you can write with unposted. So up next, I'm going to do, I think, some sizing comparisons with some other Penbbs pins, and I'll throw a Pilot Metro in there just so that way, if you don't own any other Penbbs pins, just to do some sizing comparisons with. All right, so here we have some sizing comparisons going on. So of course, working our way from the bottom to the top, we have got our Penbbs 492 here. We've got a Penbbs 456, a Penbbs 309, and then our Pilot Metropolitan up at the top. So the 492, I mean, I think it definitely kind of holds its own against these other two Penbbs pins as far as overall size. Its girth is pretty, I think, pretty solid. The 456 definitely in the widest part of the barrel is going to be a little bit girthier, and then the caps are somewhat similar. You know, you've got I think a little bit girthier cap band on your 492. I think the overall girth kind of in this portion right here on the 456, just from the naked eye, definitely looks a little bit larger. Now the 309 is a little bit smaller than these other two pins, so sizing differences, definitely you can kind of see that a little bit just looking at them. And then of course the Pilot Metropolitan is going to be the smallest of these pins. So let's take a look at the actual pins in their uncapped form and just kind of take a look at those sections and stuff. All right, so here we see all four pins uncapped. And this is, I think, one of the things that I'm somewhat excited for with the 492. One of my favorite, well, really truthfully, my favorite Penbbs pin to date is definitely the 456. Because of a couple of things. I like the weight of the pin overall, but I love the section. It's got that perfect concave, and you'll notice that the 492 has somewhat of a similar section design. You know, this is more of kind of what, you know, 309 is not my most favorite. I do like the flare out on it, but it just kind of tapers down. I really prefer these two sections the most. Now the Pilot Metropolitan is obviously going to be the most unique out of these four pins. As far as the section goes, it really tapers down to the end and then flares back out. The other thing we see here is, you know, we see different things with our nibs as well. So, I mean, these three here are going to be basically your standard number 6 size nibs. Pilot has got their own proprietary sizing. It's more like a number 5. Now here we've got our new Penbbs nib with the Year of the Rat etched into it. And like I said, I'm pretty sure this must be a medium nib that I received. Now here I've got actually a nib that I put in this 456. This is a TWSBI nib that is actually a Pendleton's ground nib. So it's a unique nib, so to speak. And then the Penbbs, this is really one of their original nibs. They're just their standard upturn fine nib. A solid nib, you know, it does its job. But just again, to give you some ideas of different design elements overall. But I definitely am excited to write with the 492 because of the fact that it has that same kind of concave styled section. I think it will be comfortable to write with. Now let's take a look at the pins in their posted form just to get an idea of how this pin stacks up with the other three. All right, so here we see all four pins in their posted forms, and this is kind of what I was referring to earlier. So we noticed that the 492 posted is the longest out of these pins. For me, as far as which pin I think posts the best and is probably the 456. I just overall posting of this pin because it posts a little bit more deeply. It's just weighted very nicely. I think that's probably, as from just a sheer posting perspective, is probably if I had to pick one, my most favorite. The 309 is solid. And it's about the same overall as the 456, but it does feel a little bit different in its posted form. Not to really knock it at all. I mean, I think it's still balanced and weighted very, very evenly. This just, again, makes it just a little bit back heavy from my perspective on the 492. And then we've got our Pilot Metropolitan up top. It's not the best posting pin out of this group, but it does the job. So there we can kind of see the pins posted. Now, the next thing I've got to do is I got to figure out what ink I want to put in this pen. And I haven't decided. That's a really tough decision. Part of me wants to go with like an Iroshizuku ink because those are like my favorite, but I really have 4 Iroshizuku inks that I go to. I've also got, I thought about doing like Mont Blanc. I have Toffee Brown. Thought that'd be kind of a nice color with this, but of course that's always the conundrum when you're trying to decide what ink to go with. And then it had hit me that I do have, I need to get more Penbbs inks, but I do have this one that I think I don't use very often. And this is I think a really attractive color as far as this Penbbs, kind of an orange color, if I remember correctly. It reminds me a little bit darker orange than the Iroshizuku, was it Foyugaki, I think is what it's called. I probably mispronounced that, but I think I might try that one. And what I'm going to try and do is get this set up to where I can show you how to ink this pen on camera. So let me get that all set up real quick. Now, before I set all that up, I definitely kind of want to show like the magnet. I haven't shown any other pieces off on this pen. So I've played around with this a little bit, but I mean, you kind of see that magnet. I mean, it is strong. It really latches onto the pen. And I mean, it works good. If you take it nice and slow, just nice, evenly and slow, you don't push too hard, you'll notice how well and how efficient that magnet is. Now you can go a little too fast and then you're gonna lose it. You just get it goes right back down on that magnet and just works really well. See there, I went a little too fast. Kind of take your time. Now I'm not gonna take this pen, 100% disassemble this pen, but I mean, you can pretty much take this pen apart. I would imagine is going to be really easy to clean out because the magnet piston here, you can actually, this section will unscrew like most of your Penbbs pins. As you can tell, I'm already unscrewing it. And this just pulls right out. And then you can actually push this magnet all the way through. So just take your little thing, push the magnet all the way through. You can take, of course, your collar, your nib and feed collar out of here, take all that apart, and then you can like clean out this barrel really well. So I mean, I think this is going to be an easy pen to clean out. I mean, essentially with the amount of ink that you're going to be able to put in here, because you don't have what you would normally have with a piston and all this additional hardware back here, you basically have an eyedropper. You have a very unique eyedropper essentially. So I did kind of want to show that off. The magnet's really cool. I mean, it latches on there. You can only engage it in one specific way. You'll notice that you can actually turn that magnet pretty easily. If your piston gets a little bit stuck, you just kind of turn the magnet and kind of work it up and the piston will get unstuck really easily. So it's just a cool design. I mean, is it somewhat gimmicky? Yes, but I think it is a very cool design. I think it suits. This pen is just very unique. I'm very happy to have it already, and I haven't even inked it up yet. So, all right, I'm gonna get everything set up now and see if I can show this getting inked up on camera. Bear in mind, my tripod is technically broke, so it might take me a minute to figure out how I can jerry-rig the tripod to get it to work. Okay, so I am back, and you'll have to bear with me. I'm having some technical difficulties. I'm working with a tripod that's not exactly in its best condition. And I could not find, I normally have like a little white background to put here and I couldn't find it. So you'll have to deal with my background I have now. At least they're vintage pins. So that's kind of cool, I guess. All right. So pretty easy overall, other than the fact that I'm doing this over a camera. So we put it down into the ink. You of course submerge your pen, that magnet just pops into place, and we see that ink flow. It is so cool watching this. again, it's not easy doing over camera. There we see it. Nice full fill. Not bad at all. So kind of wipe off the nib just a little bit. Got a paper towel nice and handy. And that's it. So there we can see nice full fill. I mean, that is a lot of ink. That is a ton of ink. So I am going to recap this pen. And then what I think we might do is just take another weight of the pen and just see what the actual barrel is now from a weight perspective. And of course, we have to do a writing sample after that. So I'll be back in a moment. All right, so as I said before, take a quick look at the weight and just see any differences once we get a full volume of ink in there. So we're now up to 29.3 grams total. So definitely added some weight. So we'll see a little bit more, obviously, in the barrel now. So we're up to almost 16 grams. So 15.8 grams in the barrel now. So now the question is that like really enough to really tell a difference? And actually, I can tell somewhat of a difference from holding it earlier to now. But definitely really cool. So just taking a look before we do the writing sample, I mean, just seeing that ink in there. I mean, literally, this is, you basically have an eyedropper, like I said before, and it's always gratifying when you have a pen like this to just kind of take a look at it, you know, let that ink kind of slosh around, and it's just always gratifying. Now, I don't really see any ink working back behind that piston seal, so I think we're pretty solid there. You know, I've got a little bit of ink that's pulled up here from submerging it. None of that's getting on my fingers. I think it's just down in there. Doesn't really bother me. It kind of adds to it. But there you have it. All right, let's do a writing sample. And then, of course, at the end of the writing sample, I'll give my final verdict on what I think about this pen. So I'll be back in just a minute. All right, we are back to start with this writing sample. As usual, I'm using my Clairefontaine notebook, so pretty much the same paper I always use. And we have here a Penbbs, I hope if I could spell, 492. The nib is very smooth, very, very smooth. That's my first thing, so a very smooth nib. Let's do an actual writing sample. Writes nice. Writes very smooth, you know, kind of almost like a wet writer. I mean, it definitely lays down some ink. To me, I mean, this, again, has an M on it. Now, comparing it to, and I'll pull it out. Here's my other 456. This has a medium nib in it. And comparing the two as far as the tipping material, to me, the one on the left, the 456, definitely has a little bit more tipping material. I don't know. I just feel like this one writes a little bit wider. I'm not complaining. I actually like the way this pen is writing. So I'm definitely not complaining whatsoever. Now, not really ever going to get much line variation with a pen like this, but it is a smooth writer. I like the way it lays down that ink. I have no complaints whatsoever there. A little bit of fast writing. It's not a very dark ink, but I kind of like it. And I just am enjoying writing with this pen, honestly. more fast writing. Write my name. So, writes very well. What about reverse writing? See if it does reverse writing. You can get to work. It's more like an extra fine, but definitely works. Smooth. It is just smooth. All right, so now here's the verdict. What do I think about the pen? First things first. So I ordered this pen off of Taobao Focus, tbfocus.com to be specific. And I mean, it took about 2 weeks to get there. I didn't really have any complaints about it. It came through DHL. First time I've really ever had honestly a package, I think as far back as I can remember, delivered from DHL. No issues there. One thing that's weird is the pricing aspect. So I think I paid just a little over $100 for this pen altogether. And I've noticed like the pricing is just kind of up and down. So I don't know what the factors are there. The question is it worth that price tag? And so if we're talking about just ratings and kind of looking at the pen from a rating perspective. So my first category as far as rating goes would be looking at aesthetics. So how does the pen look to me? What the overall appearance? So on a scale of 1 to 5 from an aesthetic perspective, for me, and again, this is just my personal opinion, I give the pen, and this is tough because, you know, and I'm trying to stack it up against other pens, but I'm going to give it a 4.5. I think it's aesthetically, it's very, very attractive. It is a nice looking pen. I like, you know, the look with the rose gold. I think the magnet is very unique. I actually really like the cap band. I think it's nice. The clip is pretty much your standard, what we've seen on some other Penbbs pens. So here's your 456. So the clip's standard, but I think the rose gold finish, it kind of has that matte kind of textured feel to it. I really like the way the clip looks. So aesthetics, I give it a 4.5. Now, as far as mechanics, so, you know, how does everything work? I give it a 5. I think mechanically it works great. I think the magnet is an awesome design. I think it's very unique. It works very well. It was easy to fill, and I was doing that over the camera, which is not exactly easy, and it worked very well. I think it's a cool design. I think cleaning this pen out is another thing. To me, it's going to be like cleaning out an eyedropper. I think, you know, when I think about cleaning out most of my eyedropper pens, that's really kind of one of the benefits of an eyedropper. You're not dealing with all those additional mechanics that you would be dealing with on, say, as much as I love these pens, these things can be kind of a pain in the butt to clean out. Even if you take the whole thing apart, it still can be, it's a chore. Whereas this pen, I think, will be a lot easier. You know, overall, so writing, you know, how does it write so far? Now, this is my first time to write with it, but I think it writes extremely well. The nib is very smooth. That's tough to give it a rating because I haven't written with it a lot, but I think if I'm just going based off of my first experience right now, and I'm also thinking how much am I going to want to write with this pen going forward, I'm going to give it a 5. I think writing wise, this is going to be a fun pen to write with. I think it's going to be a pen that I think is going to write well and perform well. Now that wow experience, that is the big thing. You know, does the pen make you feel good? Do you really like having it in your hand? And do I feel like this is going to be a pen that I'm going to want to use while I'm using another fountain pen? I think definitely so. I think I'm going to probably want to use this pen even when I'm using something else. So from a wow perspective, I give it a 5. Now the overall, so this is tough because I'm stacking it up against other pens. You know, for me, I give it a 5. You know, and I think it obviously is going to write well. The mechanics of the pen, I think, are solid. The aesthetics are really good. And I can argue I could probably give it a 5. I mean, honestly. But I think 4.5 for aesthetics. I don't really have anything to nitpick. So, I mean, I guess a 5 would almost be, but I'm just kind of talking myself out of my original score. So overall, I give it a 5. And this is a really cool pen. You know, I tried to keep my, I try not to get my hopes up too much because I was worried that I would then get so excited about it and then it would underperform or underwhelm me. But this pen definitely doesn't underwhelm me. There's a reason why I chose to get this pen over the Penbbs 500 because the moment I saw the filling system, and I'm a sucker for that, I thought, wow, this would be a really cool pen to own. And I have no issues with the price tag whatsoever. This is a cool fountain pen. If it's still available and you're willing to go through the means to get the pen, and you have to choose between this pen and maybe another pen that's around $50 or $60, I would, if you have a way to spend this money or around that, I would spend it. That is just my opinion. I have no regrets whatsoever so far. I think what I'll do is I'm going to write with this pen for a few weeks, and then I'll do a follow-up video on how it's performing, how's the writing experience going, how is it performing on other types of paper and different things like that, just to give a more thorough review. But I definitely think this is a cool fountain pen, and you can't go wrong with it. So that is my take on it. I think I fit in pretty much with Douglas and Chris that this is a really cool pen, and I would put it up against pens that are 3 and 4 and 5 times the amount that I paid for this pen. So there you have it. That is the end of this review. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Kitty, what are you doing? What are you doing? I didn't even know you were down there. You were so quiet. My feet were literally down there next to you. Yeah, you're sneaky. I know. I said I'd throw this in there. I was like, literally went to set up my tripod and she's down there trying to fall asleep.